elected president. However, I recall that we had to have a brother present at those meetings, although I don't recall any brother being tasked with this role in particular. Looking back on my time at St Patrick's College, I think that we were in a dysfunctional and closed environment, where the abnormal was the normal. As 15 to 16-year-olds, we had no idea really of outside codes of ethics, morality and justice. So it was not a notable thing for us to see that these were happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Barlow. I have no questions, Your Honour.
Does anyone else have any questions? No. Thank you, Mr Barlow. Thank you for your account of your experience. You are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honour, I call Martinus Hendrikus Claassen.
Will you take an oath on the Bible or an affirmation?
Affirmation, please.
Would you repeat after me? I do solemnly, sincerely and truly
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
that
the evidence I shall give in this Royal Commission
that the evidence I shall give in this Royal Commission
shall be the truth, the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
Yes, thank you. Take a seat.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honour. Can you state your full name, please?
My full name is Martinus Hendrikus Claassen.
And you've prepared a statement for the Commission dated the 9th of February 2016.
Yes, I have.
Do you have a copy of that with you?
Yes, I do.
Your Honour, I tender that statement.
The Exhibit 28-140.
Mr Claassen, can I ask you to read the statement beginning from paragraph 2, and I understand you have a brief addition to
Yes,
the
I
statement,
do.
which comes at the end. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My full name is Martinus Hendrikus Claassen. I was born in 1962 and am 54 years old. I grew up in Ballarat with my mother, brother and sister. My father had passed away in 1969, and as a result I believe an understanding was reached with the Christian Brothers where the school fees for my brother and I were waived. My mother only had to pay for school books, uniforms and things like school camps. I was a pupil at St Alepius Primary School, Ballarat East, from 1976 to 1973, and this is where I first met Brother Edward Dowland. Initially, we had a good relationship. He wasn't my class teacher, but coached us in basketball. He was mostly good-humoured and friendly, but he could lose his temper and become quite angry. From 1974 to 1979, I attended St Patrick's College, Ballarat. In 1974, I was in Form 1A. Brother Dowland had also moved to St Patrick's this year and become my housemaster. By housemaster, I mean that he was the main teacher for my class, teaching us English, maths and religious studies. Midway through the year, I went to Melbourne to visit family. I clearly remember that it was very cold, and I think it may have been the Queen's birthday long weekend in June. I'd been given homework to do over the weekend, but had accidentally left it in Ballarat. And when I returned to school, I had to confess that I'd not done my homework. Brother Dowland came up to me at my desk, put his head very close to mine and started speaking very softly, asking me why I hadn't done my homework. He started stroking my thigh. His hand then moved, so he was stroking and squeezing my genitals. At first I froze and then instinctively struck at his hand to push it away, and I said something like no or stop. The next thing I knew, Brother Dowland struck me heavily on my head. He said very angrily, "Don't you ever do that again. Get up and go to the back of the room." Brother Dowland grabbed me and pushed me to the back of the room and said, "Stand there and face the wall." After a few minutes, Brother Dowland came to me. I was very upset and crying. He stood behind me with the palms of his hand on the wall above my head. He was close behind me and I could feel his body gyrating against me. During this, he was lecturing me about how angry he was and disappointed that I'd not done my homework, and this continued for some time until a lunchtime bell rang and Brother Dowland let me go. Later on that afternoon, I remember going to the toilet and crying and vomiting in the cubicle because I was so worried that I would be in trouble. When I got home that night, I was pretty withdrawn. My mother noticed something was wrong and asked me, "What's wrong with you?" At first, I denied that there was a problem, but later that night, when I was doing the dishes after dinner, I told her that Brother Dowland had touched me, that I'd told him to stop, and then he'd hit me and pushed me to the back of the room. The next thing I recall was that a meeting had been arranged between myself, my mother, and the headmaster of St Patrick's, Brother Nangle. I remember that the meeting was held in a room in the O'Malley wing at school, and I believe it was on a Thursday, and it was at 2:30. I was afraid that I was going to be expelled, so my recollections of this event are pretty clear. I don't recall Brother Nangle having a pen and paper or sitting behind a desk. It was just the three of us, seated in a sort of triangle. I was crying at the meeting. Brother Nangle asked me to tell him what had happened, which I did. I said to Brother Nangle that Brother Dowland had touched me. He asked me, "Why are you making up these stories? Are you sure you're not making this up?" I remember him asking me to show me where he touched you, and I showed him by putting my hand over my crotch and said that Brother Dowland had put his hand on my dick. Brother Nangle said, "Are you sure that's where he touched you?" I replied yes and started to cry again. Brother Nangle then terminated the meeting, saying, "Thank you for coming." My mother and I left the room. She didn't ask any questions during the meeting, and neither did I. Brother Nangle made no other comments. I felt demoralised by the interview with Brother Nangle. I was still worried for a couple of weeks afterwards because I half expected to be summoned to the office to find out what was going to happen. I really didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I never heard anything else about the interview from Brother Nangle. There was no letter or phone call or conversation or any follow-up at all. After this event, many other boys would ask me what happened in the meeting with Brother Nangle, and I would tell them that I'd dobbed on Brother Dowland for touching me up. There were no further incidents with Brother Dowland. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the year, even though he remained my housemaster, except to call my name in the roll or to hand back worksheets. Brother Dowland left St Patrick's at the end of the year. He went to teach at another school, but I don't know which one it was. I do not recall there being an explanation as to why he left. At the time, I was not aware of any incidents involving Brother Dowland and other boys at St Patrick's. It was only in years later that I came to learn that many other boys had also been abused by him. My mother passed away in 2001, and when she was dying, she told me that going to St Patrick's to talk to Brother Nangle about what had happened to me was one of the hardest things she had ever done. In September 2014, I made a statement to Victoria Police in relation to Brother Dowland. Later that year, he pled guilty to 33 charges of child sexual abuse relating to 20 individuals. In early 2015, Brother Dowland was sentenced to a maximum of 6 years imprisonment, which was increased on appeal to a maximum of 8 years imprisonment. In April 2015, I had a discussion with my mother's younger brother. He told me that in 1974, my mother had called him to ask what she should do about Brother Dowland abusing me. She was worried that if she complained to the school, my brother and I might be expelled. And my uncle told her, "He's your boy, you've got to look after him." He advised her to go to the school. From the time that I was old enough to actually reflect on this incident with Brother Dowland, I came to conclude that this was a missed opportunity for Brother Nangle to act on the information provided to him by me and by my mother in 1974. There were innocent victims from later years that may not have had to suffer if Brother Nangle had handled the situation differently. I think that Brother Nangle failed in his job as headmaster by not acting to protect the boys in his care. And I'd also like to inform the Commission that I was the victim of sexual abuse during my time at St Alepius. ICCK, and I have made a police statement about this.
Thank you, Mr. Claassen.
Thank you.
Mr. Claassen, there's one question I need to ask. Does anyone want to ask Mr. Claassen any questions? No?
I do, very briefly, Your Honour.
Thank you.
Mr. Claassen, my name's O'Brien, and I represent a witness by the name of BWF, and if you've got a student list there, the name of that witness. He was a student at Ballarat St Pat's in 1973 and 4.
Yes.
You recognise the name?
BWF?
Yeah.
No.
You said in your evidence that you've just read at paragraph 20, and I'm paraphrasing, that some boys asked you about the meeting that you had with Nangle. Do you remember giving that evidence?
Yes.
And you told them that you had dobbed on Brother Dowland for touching you up.
Yes.
So it was common knowledge, was it, amongst your friends at school who spoke to about the meeting, that you had met with Nangle, is that right?
Yes.
And when you told them that you had told Nangle about the complaint that you'd made about Dowland, did they seem surprised in any way?
No.
Was the reason that they didn't seem surprised, to your mind, the fact that it was commonly known, at least rumours amongst the school had spread, that Dowland was interfering with children, and that was commonly known in the student population?
I would agree with that.
And nothing further, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? No, thank you, Mr. Claassen. You are excused.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we've reached the end of the witnesses who've been scheduled and arranged to give evidence today. The next witness has been arranged to give evidence tomorrow morning. I realise it's somewhat earlier than usual, but
There's nothing more we can usefully do with the time today?
I don't think so, Your Honour.
Yes. Very well. What time in the morning?
10 a.m, I think.
Ms Finnis, what do we now expect as to how long we'll be in Ballarat for?
On the current timetable with witnesses, it's expected that Bishop Mulkearns will give evidence on Thursday morning, or perhaps Thursday afternoon, and he will be the last witness. However, Your Honour, as usual, I make no guarantee.